Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're getting into something pretty fundamental if you're working in or thinking about the SAP world.
Yeah, that choice, right? Functional or technical.
Exactly. Which path do you take? It really shapes your work, your day-to-day, and, your whole career trajectory.
It does. And it's a big decision, maybe not quite as black and white as it used to be, but still understanding the core differences is, well, essential.
Absolutely. So to help you figure this out, we've been looking at an article that compares these two paths directly. Our mission today is to break down what each role really means, what skills you need, the kind of work you'd be doing, and hopefully give you a better sense of which one might click for you.
Sounds good. So where should we start making defining the functional role first?
Yeah, let's do that. When we talk about an SAP functional role, what are we really saying?
Thank you. Business process experts. That's the core of it. Their main job is to understand how a business actually operates. Their sales processes, how they manage finance, logistics, manufacturing, whatever it is.
Right, the real-world operations.
Exactly. And then they figure out how SAP can be set up, configured to support those processes, or even make them better.
So they're the translator, almost.
Yep.
Between the business needs and the system.
That's a great way to put it. They are that crucial bridge, connecting the people doing the business jobs with the tech that's supposed to help them.
Okay, so what does that involve, like on a daily basis? What are they doing?
A lot of talking to people. Gathering requirements is huge. Listening to users, understanding what they need, what their pain points are. Then they map those requirements onto what SAP can actually do. And a big part, maybe the biggest part, is system configuration.
Configuration, okay. Not coding.
Generally, no. They use SAP's built-in tools, usually through something called the Implementation Guide, or IMG. It lets them tweak settings, set up rules, define how screens look, workflows, that kind of thing, adapting standard SAP.
So they're using the system's own controls to make it fit the business.
Precisely. Setting parameters, master data rules, org structures within SAP, all configuration. No custom code involved, typically.
What else?
Oh, plenty. Testing is vital. They have to make sure the configuration works as expected. Then there's user training, teaching people how to use the system they've just configured.
Right, because it might be different from how they worked before.
Often is. And supporting users during user acceptance testing, or UAT. Plus, preparing functional specifications if something does need to be custom built by the technical team.
Ah, so that's where the handover happens.
Yeah, often. And of course, providing support during go-live and afterwards, making sure everything runs smoothly.
Can you give us a practical example? Make it a bit more concrete.
Sure. Let's say a company is putting in SAP for sales. An SAP SD functional consultant that's sales and distribution would work really closely with the sales department.
Okay.
They'd learn exactly how that company takes an order, processes it, ships it, sends the bill, the whole order-to-cash cycle. Then, using the IMG, they'd configure the SD module, setting up like different sales order types, how pricing works, rules for delivery scheduling, basically making standard SAP match that company's way of selling.
So they make the system follow the business rules using the tools SAP provides.
Exactly. They're deep in the business logic, translating it into system settings.
Okay, that paints a clear picture. Now let's flip the coin. The SAP technical role. What's their world about?
So functional is about the business process. Technical is much more about the how, the system itself.
Right.
They focus on the back-end stuff, customization, actual development, building integrations between systems. They're the builders and the plumbers, maybe.
Huh. Okay, so less focus on the specific business workflow, more on extending what the system can do, or making it talk to other systems.
Pretty much. Their core tasks often involve writing code. Traditionally, that's been in SAP's own programming language.
Still is, largely.
Still very relevant, yeah. But increasingly, they're also using newer tools, especially on the SAP Business Technology Platform, BTP, cloud-based development, newer languages, more modern approaches.
Okay, so what kind of things are they building with all this code and these tools?
All sorts. Custom reports are a classic example, pulling data together in ways standard SAP doesn't offer. Creating enhancements, adding custom logic into standard SAP processes, using things called user exits, BADIs, BAPIs, those are specific technical hooks. Developing interfaces is huge too. Making SAP talk to other software, whether it's a warehouse system, a bank, a supplier portal. They use technologies like IDOCs, RFCs, or increasingly APIs for that.
Right, the connections.
Yeah, and building user interfaces, making things look good and work well for users, often using SAP Fiori and UI5 to create web or mobile apps.
Okay.
And then you have the Basis or NetWeaver folks. They're technical too, but they focus more on managing the underlying SAP system itself, installations, upgrades, migrations, keeping it running smoothly, performance tuning, the infrastructure side.
So, back to our sales example. The functional consultant configured the order process. What might the technical person do?
Okay, so the functional consultant might say, we need the invoice printout to look exactly like this with our special logo here and this legal text. Standard SAP might not do that easily.
Right.
So an ABAP developer would write custom code to modify that invoice printing program.
Right.
Or maybe the sales manager wants a special dashboard on their phone showing real-time order status across different regions.
Something standard Fiori doesn't offer.
Maybe not exactly how they want it. So a technical consultant might build a custom Fiori app, maybe using BTP services, pulling data via APIs to give the manager exactly that view. They build the custom bits.
Got it. Functional configures the standard, technical builds the custom. Seems clear. So when we compare them side by side, some key differences really jump out.
Definitely. The required skills, for one, it's
Yeah.
really night and day based on that core focus we talked about.
How so?
Functional roles demand that deep domain knowledge. If you're in FICO, you need to understand accounting. You need supply chain knowledge. PP, manufacturing processes. SD, sales cycles. You have to speak the business language fluently.
Right. Where's the technical roles?
It's all about the tech stack. Programming languages like ABAP, maybe Java or JavaScript for BTP stuff. Understanding databases, system architecture, integration patterns, Fiori development principles. It's a different kind of deep knowledge.
And the tools they use reflect that too, right?
Absolutely. Functional folks live in the standard SAP graphical user interface, the GUI navigating the IMG, using standard Fiori apps.
Well, technical guys are.
They're in development environments. The AB app workbench, maybe Eclipse with SAP tools, the BTP cockpit, working with code editors, debuggers, API testing tools, very different interfaces.
What about interacting with people? That sounds different too.
Yeah, significantly. Functional consultants usually have high client interaction. They're constantly in meetings, workshops, doing demos, training sessions with the actual business users.
And technical.
It tends to be moderate to low, at least direct interaction with end users. They work more closely with the functional consultants who translate the requirements or with other technical team members.
So the core activity really boils down to
Configuration for functional, coding, and development for technical. That's the fundamental split in how they primarily add value.
and this often shapes where people come from when they enter these roles.
Often, yeah. You see people move into functional roles from business backgrounds. They were accountants who learned FICO or logistics managers who learned or EWM. They bring that real-world experience. Technical roles often pull from, computer science grads, IT professionals, people who are already developers in other technologies and then learned SAP's stack.
Which leads to the job titles we see.
Exactly. Functional side, functional consultant, business analyst, maybe a configurator. Technical side, ABAP developer, technical consultant, integration developer or architect, basis admin. Pretty distinct.
Okay, so this is all making sense, laying out the two main paths.
Yeah.
But you mentioned earlier it's not always so black and white anymore.
Ah, yes. This is where it gets really interesting, especially now with S/4HANA and the big push to the cloud. The rise of the hybrid role.
The techno-functional consultant. Heard that term a lot lately.
You will keep hearing it because they're incredibly valuable. This is someone who, well, they don't need to be the world's best coder and the deepest business guru.
But they understand both sides.
Exactly. They have a solid grasp of the business processes and enough technical understanding to see how systems can support them, what's feasible, what the trade-offs are. They can talk business language and tech language.
Why is that becoming so critical right now?
Think about modern SAP projects. It's less about just configuring or just coding. It's often a mix. You configure the standard as much as possible, but then you selectively build extensions, integrations, maybe slick UIs using platforms like BTP.
Right, it's a blend.
It is. And someone who understands both the business need and the technical toolkit, ABAP, BTP, APIs, Fiori, can design and oversee those blended solutions much more effectively. They see the whole picture.
They can bridge that gap that sometimes exists between pure functional and pure technical teams.
Perfectly put. They prevent things getting lost in translation. And the market sees that value.
Yeah.
They're in high demand, often command higher salaries. And it can be a faster path towards more senior roles like solution architect or even leadership positions because they have that broader perspective.
Can you give some examples of what that blend looks like in practice?
Sure, you might have someone really strong in SD processes, but they also know enough ADA to debug issues or write specs for complex reports.
Okay.
Or a FICO expert who's learned enough about BTP to design and maybe even prototype custom analytical apps for finance users.
Hmm.
Maybe an consultant who's also skilled in SAP's integration suite, CPI, so they can set up connections to supplier systems. Or a production planning person who can build simple Fiori apps for shop floor data collection.
That combination sounds powerful.
It really is. It makes them versatile and highly effective problem solvers.
Okay, so we've got the distinct paths, functional and technical,
Yeah.
and this increasingly important hybrid path. If someone listening is trying to decide, how do they synthesize all this? How do they choose?
It comes down to self-reflection, really. We can boil it down to maybe 5 key questions you should ask yourself, honestly.
Let's hear them.
Okay, first, do I genuinely prefer talking to users, digging into their problems, understanding their day-to-day? Or do I get more satisfaction from working with code, logic, and building system components? Where does your energy come from?
Good one. What's next?
Second, am I naturally stronger at grasping business concepts like accounting rules, supply chain flows, sales strategies, or am I more wired for technology concepts like programming logic, data structures, APIs, system architecture? Where's your natural aptitude?
Okay, know your strengths. Third,
Thinking long-term, maybe 5-10 years out, do I see myself managing projects, leading teams, focusing on delivery and stakeholder management? Or do I want to stay deeply technical, becoming a go-to expert, maybe an architect designing complex system landscapes? Both are leadership paths, just different focuses.
management track versus deep technical expert track. Got it.
Fourth, what gets me more excited? Learning about rapidly changing tech stacks, new cloud services, AI integration, the latest programming models, or digging deep into optimizing core business logic and processes. Where does your curiosity naturally lead you?
Tech novelty versus business optimization.
Okay, and the last one.
And fifth, just be practical. What's my current background and experience? Did I come from a business role like finance or sales? Or do I have an IT, computer science, or programming background? You can switch, definitely, but often leveraging your existing foundation is a smoother start.
Those are really helpful questions. Thinking through those honestly should give someone a much better feel for where they might lean.
Hopefully. And the big takeaway really is that there isn't a wrong choice here. Right, both functional and technical careers in SAP are generally very rewarding, challenging, and, let's be honest, well compensated. The key is finding the path that aligns with you, your interests, your skills, what you actually enjoy doing day in, day out.
What if someone asks themselves those questions and they're still unsure? Any practical tips?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're on the fence, try to get some hands-on experience, even if it's basic.
How?
Find some online training or tutorials. Try actually configuring something simple in an SAP sandbox system using the IMG. See how that feels. Then try a basic AVAP Hello World program, or maybe a super simple Fiori app built on a BTP trial account.
Get a taste of both kinds of work.
Exactly. Sometimes doing it, even for a few hours, tells you more than just reading about it. And talk to people. Reach out on LinkedIn to folks in functional roles, technical roles, even those hybrid roles. Ask them what their day is really like. Most people are happy to share insights. Good advice. So it really comes back to self-awareness and finding your fit. Hopefully this discussion has helped map out the landscape, the distinct functional and technical domains, their differences, and this growing hybrid space.
Definitely. And maybe one final thought to leave people with, tying back to that hybrid idea in the future.
Go on.
We see technology like AI starting to automate some tasks, even on the technical side, right? And we see the demand for that blend of skills rising. So as you consider your path, think about this. How might that ability to truly connect deep business understanding with strong technical fluency become not just advantageous, but maybe even essential for long-term success and leadership in the SAP world of tomorrow?
Interesting point. That blend might become the baseline requirement eventually. Food for thought.
Something to mull over as you figure out your next steps in the SAP ecosystem.